جوز خدك قلبه يسبح فلقة الحب السنيوريتا الحب السنيوريتا حبيبتي.
Now, I just want to preface this by saying I do not think that I am better than everyone else. However, there's something in my hands that says otherwise. Did I get myself a copy though? Yes, I did. Stop it, hold on. I did get my hands on this copy. Yes, I did. And no, you can't have it. Why? Because I'm like slightly better than you. Yeah. For those who know me, know that this woman that wrote this book, ARC of Kuang, Becky Kuang, my bestie, my girl, who by the way has seen a couple of my stories, so we're practically like this. You guys know that she's like everything to me as a writer, as an author, as just like a creative person. Like I love her work. Babel, Yellowface, the Poppy War trilogy. Like she could write dog shit and I would still read and eat it. That's just how we are, because again, we're like this. Now, since getting this book in my hands, I have made several videos on my book talk account, and one of them went semi-viral, especially on book Twitter, because I was like, guys, here are some books. I made a little list. Okay, it's not little, but I made a list of books. So I was like, you should probably read these in preparations for Katabasis, because Homegirl comes out in August, and the stock I'm going to show you, I feel like you might have some time to read this in preparation for Katabasis, because you're like, well, why do I need to prepare for Katabasis? Why do I need to prepare? This is Becky Kuang we're talking about, okay? You read Babel, you read Yellowface, you read the Poppy Wars. Her writing forces you to think and forces you to use your brain and forces you to actually prepare. Girl really said blood, sweat, and tears, okay? She said, if I'm gonna put this out into the universe, you're gonna give me something in return, which I was like, girlfriend, fair enough. Apparently tears wasn't enough. Anyways, yeah, here is the stack of books that I recommended that got a lot of people in a tizzy. They were like, what do you mean I have to prepare? What do you mean I have to read? Bitch, let me tell you something. Like I said, Becky Kuang doesn't half-ass things. And if she says, I base my book off like a lot of inspirations from the Divine Comedy, the Odyssey, Alice in Wonderland, the Aeneid, and the Bell Jar, then you best fucking believe that we're gonna be preparing, because around here, just like Becky Kuang, we don't half-ass things. We don't do it, girl. Don't do it. Do you want to have clear skin? That's what I thought. It's what I thought. So, Katabasis, what is it about? It is a story that follows two students named Peter and Alice who are going to hell to find their professor who's just hanging around down there after a spell gone wrong, and they need him because he is supposed to write them a letter of recommendation so they can get a really good job, okay? Mind you, this is like set in a magical fantasy world with a lot of realism involved into it, so like think Babel essentially. Now Peter and Alice are like academic rivals, so they're not always getting along with each other, but there is like a hidden past with them that they used to get along with each other until something came up in between that tore them apart. And we come to find out that it is the professor that kind of tore them apart from one another. So these two characters go into the 9 layers of hell based off of Dante's Inferno to find said professor to bring him back so he could write them a letter of recommendation. I mean, if that doesn't speak volumes of who they are as characters, like they would go to hell to get a good job, then I don't know what to tell you, you know? But I wish I had that kind of level of energy or just that vibe to go get things done. Unfortunately, I have ADHD, so that's not going to happen. I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to rapid fire through a lot of these books. I'm not really going to take my time explaining what these books are about. Like, if these books do pique your interest, you're going to do your own research and, like, look into it. But I'm just going to give a couple sentences describing what these books are about, who they're written by, and, you know, obviously, since I've read this book, like, 3 times, I kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm an academic, guys. Okay, since Katabasis is heavily inspired by Dante's Inferno, I recommend obviously reading the Divine Comedy. You can go above and beyond and read the whole 3, Purgatory, Heaven, and Inferno, but I just recommend reading Inferno because, again, this takes place in Inferno. I got the translated copy by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I found it in Barnes & Nobles. There are many translations. I don't think you can go wrong with any one of them. I'm like 4 degrees level of stupid, so Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was easier for me to digest. So if you're someone like me, I recommend this. Also, this book has really beautiful illustrations. So if you're someone that also likes pictures like me, I recommend this one. Honestly, when I was reading Katabasis, I was like, my girl Becky was either on cocaine, and then I was just like, no, it's because she took inspiration from Alice in Wonderland. Because there were a lot of scenes in this book that just gave off this kind of energy, but 10 times more. Like, it was funny and it was a little bit more like disturbing, but yeah, I recommend reading this. If you're an academic, you're gonna obviously be drawn to a lot of tragedies, and who else better wrote tragedies than the Greeks? I recommend The Three Theban Plays by Sophocles. It follows obviously the story of Antigone, Oedipus the king, and Oedipus the colonist. It literally explores the fate of these three families and just like the shit that they go through. When reading this, I like to say like, I thought 2025 was bad. Girl, I'm so glad I don't live in this book, because ooh, that's rough. Someone did not like you. Someone threw the evil eye on you guys, because a lot of the shit that you went through was a little fucked up. But anyways, I recommend this. And this one, I'm talking about the blueprint, one of the blueprints of writing tragedies, writing a good epic, and just an overall story of someone crashing out because their bestie died. The Epic of Gilgamesh. Honestly, it just follows Gilgamesh having like an insane crash out, and him trying to find the meaning of life and morals and like divinity, and just him, because his friend died, okay, right? And so like, just like any normal person, 5 feet apart because they're not gay, you would go like have a crash out too, and totally easily read it. There were moments in there that I was like, tu velo, period, tu velo, because like obviously there's some words in here that were a little bit too big for me, too big for my stupid brain to understand. Anyways, I recommend also reading the Epic of Gilgamesh. Greek and Roman tragedies, but obviously the Aeneid by Virgil. It is a 12-book Latin poem written by the poet Virgil that follows the story, or follows the character Aeneas, a Trojan leader, and I think he was like the son of Venus. I swear I read this book, but anyways, he travels to Italy after the fall of Troy to like establish the Roman race, the Roman Empire. And essentially this poem like explores themes of destiny, journey, Roman strength. But like you see a lot of like themes from this book within Katabasis, and I was like, you know what, I fuck with it. I kind of fucked with it. I hated this book in high school and in college, and after, I don't know why I still have this. It makes me feel smart, I guess. Anyways, I recommend this book. Because Katabasis does explore themes such as going into hell, talking about mortality and immortality, or morals and ethics, and just obviously there's a lot of Greek innuendos thrown in here. I do recommend reading the Odyssey and the Iliad by Homer. You don't need to read both. If you want to choose one or the other, I recommend the Odyssey, especially since it is a story based around Odysseus, who does go on a very long journey back to his home in Ithaca to get to his wife, and he does go through hell. He does go through all these different really unfortunate events, just trying to get back to his home. But yeah, I do recommend this. Also, if you're a girl supporting a girl, I recommend getting Emily Wilson's translation. She knew what she was doing, okay? She ate. Hear me out, but the Canterbury Tales, just because of the amount of unhingedness, is that even a word, that happens in Katabasis, like, there were many scenes that genuinely reminded me of the Canterbury Tales with how chaotic they were. Now, for those who don't know, Canterbury Tales is a story of all these different people, like monks, knights, nuns, princes, royals, that come together in a tavern to exchange different stories that they have, essentially, while they wait out a storm. And some of the stories are like, I feel like you guys need an exorcism because it's a little insane. And that's exactly how I felt reading certain scenes in Katabasis. So if you want to go the extra mile, I recommend reading the Canterbury Tales. Also, it's such a fun read. I recommend it. On this channel, we don't body shame, okay? I know she's a little thick. I know she's a little hefty, she's a little curvy, and we like that. We like that. In fact, the bigger the better. Respect, okay? But Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke is one of the best reads I've ever read in 2024, and I highly, highly recommend it. In fact, Miss Becky Kuang literally says up here, a book that I wished I had wrote. But there are a lot of similar themes between Katabasis and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. First of all, you've got two rivals, to academic rivals, to academic magician rivals that literally have to engage in battle over the proper misuse of magic, that like literally leads to unintended consequences. Like this is what happens when you fuck around and find out. And it forces, in both stories, it forces these two rivals to like work together to make sure that shit doesn't hit the ceiling, essentially. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say in preface on this book, but I do recommend it. Another book by Susanna Clark that I recommend that also was an inspiration for Katabasis was Piranesi. But not least, I recommend Babel by R.F. Kuang. If there was any book from this list that you were like, if I had to read just one book, what would it be? It would be Babel. Mainly because you get an understanding and a feel of how deep her writing actually is, that, you know, things that she forces you to go through to understand what she's trying to convey in her stories, like the writing style, like the hidden like just read this book, okay? I'm rambling. But I just recommend reading Babel because this is at the core, Katabasis at its core is literally Babel, in my opinion. You know, follows academics, follows magicians, follows history, linguistics, all that and more. So yes, I recommend this. Right, well, that is it for today's video. I don't know when I'll see you again because I feel like I'm never here on this fucking channel, but if you made it all the way through, thanks. I really appreciate you guys. Anyways, yeah, thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, stay hydrated, be kind to yourselves, and free Palestine.